Welcome to the Year 2 curriculum presentation. This PowerPoint is really just to give you a flavour of the kinds of things your children will be learning in Year 2, give you a little bit of an insight into what Year 2 is about, explain to you what our expectations are of the children, what you can expect from us, and what we would like to work with you together on to make sure that we've got everything that your child needs in place ready for their Year 2 journey. There are specific aspects of the Year 2 curriculum that we will be discussing with you in this PowerPoint, and hopefully this will answer any general questions that you might have about what your children are going to be learning this year. There is a Zoom meeting next week where you will be able to log on and come with any general questions that you might have for Year 2. Any specific questions that you might have about your individual child are really important to take them to your own class teacher. This question and answer session is a general session where you can bring any queries that you might have. Last year we had parents turn up to the meetings and they didn't have any questions, so it was a little bit difficult at times. The meeting didn't last very long, let me put it that way, because nobody had any questions, which on the one hand was great because that meant that this PowerPoint had been very thorough and had run through with the parents exactly what they needed to know and answered those questions. But if there is anything that you feel you still want answered as a general question, then log on to the Zoom meeting, and the link is at the end of this PowerPoint next week, where we will be available for half an hour just to answer any general questions that you might have. But as I say, take on board the information that's in this PowerPoint. I'm sorry that you've got to listen to my voice going on for about 40 minutes. I hope I've covered everything. Recording videos isn't my forte, so I'm hoping that it will run smoothly and everything is as it should be, and the links are there for you to follow and to listen to. And I hope you find it useful and informative. So the aims of Year 2 are really to build on all of the prior learning that your children have done since they've been in Year R and into Year 1. Really important that the children begin to make connections and see how the things that they're learning this year link to the things that they learned last year. So we will often begin a learning session with a little bit of retrieval. We've already said to the children in class when we've been doing our learning this week, we've been covering aspects of shape work that we know the children know in Year 1. And we've been talking about waking up their memories, retrieving from their brains the things that they already know so that we can just wake up their memory ready to build on that and learn new concepts and new skills. So it's really important to just see what they're going to be doing in Year 2 as a continuation of the things that they've learnt in preparation for building up independence and resilience ready to join the junior school next year. Everything that we do in terms of our learning opportunities are focused around the main rights that the children have. They're at the centre of our ethos. We want them to learn how to be healthy. There is a big focus not only on physical health but on mental health, ensuring the children are learning about their emotions, how to recognise their emotions, learning what to do if they are in a situation where they are worried or upset, learning about the importance of physical health and the impact that that has on their lives. We want them to learn how to be safe, safe online, safe in school, safe when they're going about their ordinary everyday activities. We want them to be able to enjoy and achieve and to make sure that they are reaching their full potential but able to enjoy all of those learning opportunities that come their way, that they have the opportunity to play, they have the right to play. We want them to be engaged in a wider range of activities, and that they also in Article 12 are able to make a positive contribution in every aspect of their learning, so that learning isn't something that they feel is just done to them. It's actually something that they feel that they have an active role in. And the curriculum builds up over the year. The things that they're doing and the way that they're learning at the beginning of Year 2 will be very similar to the way that they worked in Year 1, and that will build up and that will change over the time, so that by the time they get to summer term, which you won't possibly even be able to get your head round, that they will be ready to join the junior school. And it is an exciting journey, and one where the children grow and change and transform and become so much more independent and ready to take on all new learning opportunities, and we will be supporting them and you through that process. And they're the real aims of Year 2, to continue that love of learning and to give them all of the right skills to be ready to move on to the junior school. So the expectation in year 2 does ramp up a little bit. This year is about, as I've said, building on what they learnt in year R and what they've learnt in year 1, but it's also about preparing them for year 3. And one of those most important things to do for the children during year 2 is to increase their independence, ensuring that they are able to work and concentrate for longer periods of time. That's really important, that they are able to access the learning that they're given and focus for a period of time that allows them to be able to complete what is expected of them in preparation for that building up across the course of year 2, ready for year 3. One of the other important things about year 2 is beginning to allow the children to critically reflect on the work that they've done, starting to notice their own errors, starting to think about where they could make improvements, thinking about the things they've done really well, celebrating what they've done, and noticing where they've actually implemented the things that we expect of them within the curriculum or within a piece of work, and to start, really focusing on their areas of success and those areas that they need to improve. Please continue to send in the WOW stars that you do for the children. One thing we would say is that they really do need to be WOW stars, simple things that they are expected to do every day at home, tidying up or, getting up quickly in the morning. They're things that we would expect them to be able to do by the time they're in year 2. So those WOW stars really need to be for achievements that they have that are out of the ordinary, out of the norm. We'd love to have those in, love to celebrate them with the children. We will be putting them up around our classrooms. Some of us have got a board in our classrooms, some of us it's in the corridor. But we really want to know about those achievements that the children have. Helping them at home with their spelling, which I'll talk about a little bit later, their maths passport, and also just to keep us informed of anything that you feel we should know about your child. That continuation of that partnership is so vitally important to ensure that your children are confident and happy and settled and developing trusting relationships. So we want to work in partnership with you on that. So it's really important to keep that communication open. Our job is to support your child, to ensure your children receive the best education that they possibly can, to challenge and support them where they need to be, and to work alongside you and make that curriculum as exciting and as accessible as possible. We want them to enjoy this year and every learning opportunity that comes their way. Routines for year 2 are pretty much the same as in year R and in year 1, although we do encourage you to leave your children at the classroom door far more. Really important, and this goes hand in hand with the expectation of increased independence, that your children get used to coming into school by themselves. It is still a year away, which is a lot of time, and a lot changes in that year that they change between year 1 going into year 2 and then up to year 3. But your children really need to get used to saying goodbye and coming in independently, so that when they go into year 3, they're ready to go into school without needing any support from you. Morning routine, they are always reminded to change their book. It is the children's responsibility to come into school and remember that they need their book changed. We always remind them first thing in the morning, first job when they come in. We will always say, if you've read your book at home, you need to choose another one. Please go to the book box and change your book. That is down to them to do. Snack has always been fruit or raw vegetables, water bottles, water only. We know some children like to sneak a little bit of squash into their water bottles, but we are quite strict in terms of making sure the children know it's fresh water that is best and the most healthy for them. PE will be done twice a week, and library day, we still need to confirm our library time, so I will get back to you in terms of when that library slot is going to be. But those routines are very similar to the things that the children have already been used to, but with a little bit more independence. Our school values are really important to us, and it's something that we really worked hard on last academic year alongside the children to try and make our school values really accessible to them in everything that they do, so that they're able to live out those values whilst they're with us at school. And in turn, as a staff, we want to be able to live out those values with the children and exemplify them in everything that we're doing with them. So the children decided that they would come up with characters of the bees, because that's fitting with everything that we do in terms of beekeeping at school, and give each value a values be that went alongside it, and each one of them has got names, and the children become very familiar with these. Mrs. McCarley does a series of great assemblies based on each of these values, where the children really get to understand how that value relates to them in their learning and in their life. So there's a list of them there for you. Reggie is our respectful bee, Kiki is kindness, and that value was chosen by the children. It's something that they really felt they wanted to have as one of our school values. Coco, curiosity. Crash was our courageous bee. Connie and Colin, collaboration, and Ricky is our resilience bee. And all of those values are the things that we want our children to be developing in themselves as learners, as people, so that they're equipped to step out into society and live out those values, because it's something that those things are things they're really, really familiar with in their lives. So we know that children learn best when they are being taught in an environment where they feel motivated, where they feel safe, where they feel valued. And we very much want to continue that in our Year 2 classrooms to ensure that the children are able to achieve their best. It's about asking the children in Article 12, what would you like to learn about, and us putting those learning experiences into our curriculum. It's about giving that opportunity for them to be able to do the things that they're interested in, whilst actually taking it back to the national curriculum and covering all the things that we have to make sure that we've taught by the children get to the end of this year with us in Year 2. Now, our approach to learning is very similar to any other year group in the fact that it is rooted in a growth mindset state, where the children may say, I may not be able to do it now, but that doesn't mean I won't be able to do it with practice and with support and with challenge. And so that's what this year is about, as well as developing that independence and that resilience, giving them that opportunity to push themselves in a secure and safe environment. So the subjects that we cover in Year 2 are computing, PSHE, which is personal social health education, RE, history, geography, music, art, DT, and PE, which is both indoors and outdoors, which leads me nicely into PE kit. We already have some PE kits in our classes that have clothes in them that haven't been labelled. Please can you make sure that every item of your child's clothing has a name in it, even if it is something, especially if it's something that you've got from Foobs, that might have the name of a historic pupil in it. It makes narrowing down who that item of clothing actually belongs to very, very difficult. So please make sure everything has a name in it. So for PE, they will need warm trousers for outside, as well as a tracksuit top to wear outside. We will be doing PE all year, outside and inside, so they need trainers. So please ensure that your trainers fit. If they've brought to school the PE kit that they used last year, you might find that they've grown out of their trainers. We have a couple of children where that's been the case, so please make sure that the trainers fit. We will be, as I said, going out for PE all year, which links with our drive to really ensure the children are aware of their physical health and the impact that that has on their mental well-being. We try as very much as we can to make sure that the curriculum is cross-curricular. So within English, we might be teaching aspects of history, so that they are seeing the links with those different subject areas and are developing those well-rounded skills. Outdoor learning will happen on a Tuesday afternoon. The specifically focused area of outdoor learning will happen on a Tuesday afternoon. So please make sure your child has wet weather clothing. They will be going outside even if it is tipping down with rain. That is part of being outside. The children don't seem to care about the weather as much as we do. They're quite happy to go outside when it's tipping with rain, and they will be doing that on a Tuesday afternoon. So it's really important that those clothes are ones that you don't mind getting mucky, that can just go home after Tuesday afternoon, bung in the washing machine and bring back to school the following Tuesday. Waterproof coat, if you've got them, waterproof trousers, but those things aren't essential. We don't want you going out and having to spend money on anything specific. So any kind of old clothes will be really, really helpful for outdoor learning. But this curriculum really gives them a well-rounded introduction to all of the different areas that they will continue to study right up to GCSE level. So it really is those basics that form those steps that will lead them to achieve in those subjects later on as they move through Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 3 and 4. HeartSmart is our PSHE programme that we follow. Your children are very familiar with HeartSmart. It's one aspect of our PSHE, which is our personal, social and health education. As you can see on the screen, it follows those different themes and all centres around a robot called Boris, who your children are very, very familiar with. It's all about developing self-esteem and resilience, and it dovetails really nicely into our school values and everything we're trying to promote with the children in terms of being physically and mentally healthy, and really exploring different aspects of resilience, and making sure that they feel that they know that they are accepted no matter what they are or who they are. And it explores lots of different topics, such as too much selfie isn't healthy, which is one which the children really do benefit from, because it's all about outward looking and not inward looking, and thinking about others and considering the consequences of your actions for others around you, which is a really important one as children are growing up. The other aspects of PSHE, we cover things such as dental health, road safety, sun safety. We look at different types of medicines. We look at how to develop your mental health in terms of recognising and understanding your emotions. So it's HeartSmart forms the basis of that, but there is so many other aspects to PSHE that your children are going to really benefit from experiencing this year. The policy for that is on the website. If you have any further questions in terms of PSHE, you just need to approach your child's class teacher, who will be able to point you in the right direction for anything else that you might have a question on in terms of that area of our curriculum. So down to the specifics of reading. Reading obviously covers phonics, English. English obviously covers phonics, reading, writing, spelling, punctuation and grammar. And as I said, these sessions are as far as possible linked to the topics that we are going to explore within the foundation curriculum as well. So phonics, there will still be daily phonics and weekly reading, daily writing opportunities, and we will be working very hard on the children's spelling, punctuation and grammar. Really, really key that you try and encourage your children to speak in grammatically accurate sentences. By the end of year 2, they are expected to be able to write in grammatically accurate sentences. And if they aren't speaking in a grammatically accurate way, it's much harder for the children to write in a grammatically accurate way. Things such as, instead of you done brilliantly today, it's you did brilliantly today, or you was perfect, you did perfectly. Speaking in grammatically accurate sentences is vital to the accuracy of their writing. I will be touching on more of those things in detail as we move further through. So as you can see on this slide, there are so many things that your children have to learn when it comes to their writing. It is one of the hardest things they will ever have to learn to do when it comes to being in school. There are so many aspects to developing their writing skills, and I can see that the video at the bottom has covered up one of the words that just says present, which links to where it says at the bottom present and past tense. So that's one aspect of their writing. They have to learn to write in present and past tense. There is everything that goes with writing, learning how to sit properly, holding their pencil accurately, upper and lower case letters. They have to think about what it is they actually want to say, how that looks, and putting it down on paper. Now, all of your children have come up from year 1 being able to write really well for where they're at in their stage of their development. We will take the children, as we've said, on from whatever point they come to us at. And we have so many different writing experiences in year 2 that it just becomes part and parcel of what they do every single day. We try and make the writing opportunities as engaging for them as possible. As I've said, you know, I remember my daughter, when she was at school, asking me what was the point in writing when she could tell me it quicker, which I completely understand and completely see where she was coming from at 6 years old. So it's important that we make those writing experiences really, really meaningful for the children, because they have so much they have to remember. But it is an exciting aspect of their learning. It's one where they really see that progress at the end of the year, I love getting the books out from the children from September, and they open up their first English book and they look at what they were doing in their first book, and it's, wow, look how clever you are, look how much you've learned, look what you can do now, look at where you've improved. And it's that sense of achievement is really evident for them in their writing. But there is so much for them to learn, but we will be supporting them every step of the way. For a child that finds writing a struggle, it's really important not to put too much on them when they're at home. Get them to orally rehearse with you what they want to say. That's where, on the previous slide, when we were talking about being able to speak in grammatically accurate sentences, that is so powerful, as I'd said, that actually the things that come home for homework are the aspects that are important to work on when it comes to writing, which is the spelling. Obviously, if they enjoy writing, you're onto a winner already. So any writing opportunities that you want to do with them at home, you know, to use those and to do them. But as I said, if it's something that your child finds hard work, rest assured we are doing lots of those things in school to get them ready for where they need to be at the end of the year as they progress over to the junior school. So as I said, in the writing covers a whole range of genres. We will be learning about all sorts of things when we're writing, different types of narrative. We will be learning about different traditional tales that might have a twist to them. We'll be using a variety of authors, which will be a starting point for whatever we're doing in our topic. And these change year on year depending on what topics we do. As you all know, some of our topics are fixed, like Year 1, and some of our topics are driven largely by the interests of the children. So that does change what our text drivers might be in terms of what we'll use to engage the children in their writing. We try and make sure that we cover a range of skills, from writing stories to writing instructions to doing a recount of something that they've done, or a recount of something potentially that they have learned as a historical event, for example in the Great Fire of London. We will weave in all of the different types of grammar that the children need to learn within their writing, so it brings what they're learning to life. And that's the thing with grammar. They're the things that we learn, or I learn, I should say, at school without having a label on it. We learned about nouns and pronouns and adjectives and adverbs. We just didn't know their names. Children now need to learn the names of those things, the things that they're using in their writing, and they might come home and say certain terms to you and you'll think, oh, what on earth does that mean? But the children should be able to explain them to you a little bit when they first started learning phonics, and they'd come home and tell you about digraphs and trigraphs. They know what they are and they're able to use them in their writing. It's about making their writing more sophisticated in Year 2, adding detail, making their writing more engaging through the different vocabulary that they're using, as well as using the right spelling rules that they will be learning, and they're the words that came home on the sheet. So phonics will continue to be taught 4 times a week. That focus will be on spelling rules. The Year 2 words that came home on that sheet, they do contain those spelling rules. For example, this week we've been learning words with a soft C sound, like ice and city. And the reason why those words that actually begin with a C make an S sound. We learnt the spelling of DGE and G that both make a J sound, as in fudge and village, and the rules for why those words are spelt in the way that they are. We rehearse them and repeat them and go back over them so that it becomes just something they pick up and they learn. Those spelling words, as we learn them, they're on the wall in the classroom. We don't do an official test for spellings. We used to do a spelling test with the children, but we felt very much that it became a test of how good they were in their memory on that particular day, and that some children would get all their words right in a spelling test and then not use them accurately in their writing. Or some children would get very stressed out about a spelling test, and it became something that we felt that we would move away from. And we will assess the children termly on their spellings, and you'll get an updated sheet home which will outline to you the words that the children can spell and those words that children need to perhaps put a little bit more work in trying to remember how to spell. Later on in the year, if we feel that your child needs an extra boost with their spelling, they may then have a spelling book that will come home, which will have some words in it that we will ask you to work on with them specifically at home. But there is no test as such. We feel very much that the important part about spelling is the teaching that goes on in school, looking at those words and having a go to spell them with you at home, and then us really making sure that the children are able to use the word sheets in the classroom to pick out those words that they need and put them into their writing independently. And that is the focus for spelling. Phonics, as I said, will focus on those spelling rules, and that will be taught 4 times a week, and is in line again with the monsters that they've learned right all the way from Year R. We continue with that format in Year 2 to make sure that they have covered all of those skills whilst revisiting the ones they've already learned. So don't worry if you feel these words are far too advanced for my child. I'm worrying that they're not going to be ready for them. There is rehearsing and remembering what has gone before, as well as teaching those new skills to make sure that they've got that full range of aspects of phonics covered in the lessons that we're teaching them. So as I mentioned on the slide about writing and phonics, we will be doing lots of work with spelling for your children in school. That is the focus of Year 2, is on those spelling rules that are contained in the words that went home in their communication book. And to support their spelling at home, please use the document on the website that contains all of the Key Stage 1 Common Exception words, the words that they would have learnt in Year 1 and the words that they will need to learn when they're in Year 2. We do go back over those Year 1 words, so please don't feel that if your child hadn't learned to spell all of their Year 1 words, they're going to be lagging far behind. What's really important with spelling is that the children are able to read the words they need and then can use the word bank that we have on the table to access those words and put them into their writing. It's a huge task to expect the children to be able to learn how to spell all of those words from memory. Some children love it, some children grasp that really easily, but for other children, they will have those words on the table in the classroom for them to use when they are writing, a little bit like we would use a dictionary. To hold all of that information in their head at the age of 6 and 7 is a big task. So there are tools that we use to support the children. So please don't worry if your child hasn't learned to spell all those Year 1 words. Continue working on those first. We will be teaching the Year 2 spelling rules in school, and it's very much taking it at your child's own pace. So use the information that we've given you to work through those at home. There are some ideas on the website that you can use in terms of different ways to help the children to spell the words that you've given. It's called like a spelling pick and mix, I think it's called, on the website. So search for that, that's in there. And if your child can spell all those words already, they need to be using them in their writing. Quite often we find, as I said in that last slide, the children will spell those words and know them for a test and have them in their mind, but then when it comes to their writing, because they have to remember so much when it comes to writing, the spelling goes out of the window. And you will say to the children, well, how do you spell the word people? They'll tell you how to spell the word people. And then you'll say, well, look at that word you've written in your writing. What's wrong with that? It's not spelt properly. It's about being able to go back and edit their writing, edit their spelling, to make sure that they've got in there those accurate spellings from the lists that have gone home. As I said, they're on the table, they're there for them to use. If they can spell them all, focus on adding suffixes and prefixes to words, those different derivatives that come from words, as I've put on there at the bottom. You know, if they can spell the word water, can they spell watered, watering, waters? It's about making sure that they've got that full range and that breadth to their spelling. But we will keep you updated on how the children are progressing with their spellings termly. As I said, we'll send home an updated sheet for you that will outline the amount of words that your child can spell. That is by no means meant to panic anyone. Each thing should be done at your child's own pace. It's not a race. Every child is different, and we absolutely appreciate that within our classes, which is why we take it at a pace that is appropriate for each individual So work on some of those words at home. We'll send them home on the homework sticker, the ones that we've been working on that week. So if you can reinforce those at home, then that's fantastic in supporting us in everything that we're doing in the classroom, and that will be a great help. Reading continues to be another really, really important part of our curriculum. It's essential to early education. In an infant school, your children will learn to read so that as they progress in their lives, especially through to Key Stage 2, they can read to learn. And that's the really important part of one of the really important things that we do here at the infant school, is give them a really good grounding in reading. When Ofsted came in, they were very pleased and spoke very highly of our reading curriculum, the way that there is breadth to our books, the way that we encourage our children not only to use their skills in phonics, and that they are able to read books that are phonically decodable, but they are also exposed to books that give them that breadth and depth to their reading experience. We continue to hear your children read in school in guided reading. During Year 2 especially, as a teacher, we teach reading to our group of children. It's not just about listening to them, it's about teaching that skill, those skills that they're going to need to access texts on a variety of levels. And whilst the children are reading with a teacher in a group, there are activities that the children complete in guided reading that are all based around those skills they're going to need to be able to use independently when it comes to negotiating their way through books. So it's a really, really important part of our curriculum, reading, and they will be heard once a week. You will get your guided reading sticker in your communication book, which will tell you if your child is reading a Monster Phonics book, what that book title is, and you will be able to access that through Monster Phonics at home. And that's another really important part of your reading. Please don't go dashing ahead and reading all of those titles on Monster Phonics. We have very carefully matched those Monster Phonics books to the different to the range of different needs within a year group. So whichever book title is written in your communication book, in terms of that being the Monster Phonics book that your child has read in school, it's really important that you rehearse that with them and read that with them again at home. They will keep that title for a couple of weeks. That way we can develop fluency and pace with what they're reading. And alongside that, they will also be able to choose a book that is not fully decodable from our book boxes, where they will be able to choose to have books of their own choice. They will be introduced to vocabulary that may be slightly more challenging, but they will be books that they will choose, that they will then read for pleasure. And that again is really important, that they develop that reading for pleasure aspect to their reading experience. Story time, another fantastic and really valuable part of the day. Our children love reading a whole range of books. The last couple of years, my class have really enjoyed reading and having read to them Tom Fletcher books. So we will endeavour to read a whole range of books to your children to introduce them to different stories, different authors. And it's a really important part of the day, really important time when the children are able to come together and listen and have that enjoyment of reading and understand why books are so essential and key in our lives. So reading continues to be at the forefront of what we do in here in the infant school, and to continue to develop those skills in the children themselves so that they're ready, as I said, to move forward to Key Stage 2, where they will need that skill of reading to be able to access what they're going to learn. Really important that your children have their communication books with them during school time, not only for anything that you might want to communicate with us, but also anything that we might want to report back to you. Homework stickers are put into communication books on a Friday. I know that you were used to this because it used to happen in Year 1 as well. And these will be put into their communication book with an outline of the kinds of things that you can be doing at home with them. But that communication book is where you get that opportunity to tell us about the reading experience that your children have had at home, how you feel they're coping with the text they're reading, and in response to anything that we might have asked your child to work on with their reading, that's then a really good opportunity for you to put that into that communication book. It's also how we go about monitoring children and how they read at home and how often they read at home. We love the fact that children may read independently. We value that. And as I've said, you know, it's about making sure that reading is done at a time that is appropriate for your child so that they can get the best out of their reading session. But keep that communication book in the book bag, exactly the same as has been in Year 1 and in Year R. This is really important when you're supporting reading at home. Make it a reasonable time. This is the one thing I struggled with as a parent of my own children, because I'd be getting in from work like you do at 5:30, 6, and I'd then need to read with my child. Reading was never anything my child particularly enjoyed. It was hard work, so it wasn't something that they wanted to do at 6:30. What they wanted to do at 6:30, 7 o'clock, and what I felt I needed to do at 6:30, 7 o'clock is have tea, read them a story, and then it was time for bed. So I had to make other time for reading when it fitted in with me, in order for that reading not to become a struggle and not to become a battle. Just the same with spelling. Some children love reading. They love it. My stepdaughter, I never knew what it was like until I was around my stepdaughter and walked past her bedroom in the evening and heard her reading to herself. Some children love reading. Some children find it hard work. And it's about knowing your child and doing what is right and best for your child in that situation, but making reasonable time for it, making it a comfortable time, and a little but often is the real key to that. And I know we all have such busy lives, but it's so important that the children see you valuing that reading and doing it at a time when you have the patience to really give them the time they need to explore. This side is pretty self-explanatory for maths. Basically gives you the information on how the maths curriculum is broken down, the key areas that the children study, and within each of those units of learning there is a varying degree of challenge and support and a variety of activities that the children will be taking part in order to develop their skills in each of those areas of the maths curriculum. Sometimes there may be a homework that comes home based on one of those areas. Sometimes that homework might simply be for them to demonstrate to you how they have learned to do something in school. It was quite something that the parents appreciated last year when we were learning something in addition subtraction, in terms of how we encourage the children to cross a boundary when they are adding and subtracting without using the column addition, which they use at Key Stage 2. Important not to encourage your child to use that column addition method in Key Stage 1 in order for your children to get a really good grounding and understanding of what number is. We teach that slightly differently than perhaps you're used to, and the children really enjoyed going home and actually demonstrating to their parents how they approach a maths problem in addition and subtraction in a different way to their parents. So that's the range of the maths curriculum. And as I said, pretty self-explanatory. They are the areas that we will be covering in maths this year. There are a number of ways that you can support your children with maths at home. As I said on the previous slide, doing and completing anything with them that may come home with homework. Homework is about your child rehearsing something they've done at school. We will never send something home on homework that your child has not had experience of or does not know how to do. Homework again should not be stressful. It's a way of your children being able to rehearse and practice some of the things they've learnt in school. So when it comes to maths, one of the key things is a maths passport. I've sent another copy of that home last week in the communication book. Those things are there for you to practice, like the reading, little and often. They are the mathematical things that we know that your children need to have for mental recall in order for them to be able to access and be successful within the maths curriculum. So practice those things, counting in 2s, 5s and 10s, understanding the relationship between addition and subtraction, shapes, time, money. Money is a really important one that you can help us out with when it comes to that part of the maths curriculum. Children don't handle money as much as they used to. One of the big factors in that was COVID. People didn't want to be touching coins. That does mean that historically, when money used to be one of the areas of maths that children were quite familiar with, because they'd go to the shop and they'd have £1 to spend. Now children experience money by their parent paying for it on their phone or their watch or tapping their card. They don't handle cash, so therefore that understanding of money isn't necessarily there like it used to be. So there may be some activities that come come home that are to do with money, telling the time again. Not many children these days have a proper analogue clock in their house with hands that tick round the time of the clock. So teaching time is something that's really helpful that you can do with your children at home, but really rehearsing those things on the maths passport are going to allow them to access the maths curriculum and allow them to be fluent in their maths skills. We use Bug Club in Year 2 for setting any kind of homework that we might want the children to practice at home. It is exactly the same password as your child had in Year 1. However, we will be putting a reminder of what that password is on a sticker inside your child's communication book. This won't be this week, as it does take Mrs. Selms quite a while to roll the children up from Year 1 to Year 2, allocate them to the right classes, and make sure that she's got all the right information on the system for you in both Tapestry and in Education City. But it is a really, really helpful resource that just has lots of fun ways to reinforce the kinds of activities that we're doing in grammar and in maths. So Education City passwords will be coming home to you at some point in the next few weeks. Homework will come home on the homework sticker. As I said in the letter I sent home the other day, that will go in on a Friday. That is still something that we're going to continue with in Year 2, very similarly to the way that it was done in Year 1. It's not going to be about creating big projects. They were the things that I found really hard as a parent when those kinds of homeworks came home. Create a castle out of junk modelling or something like that. You know, I really feel that the homework that we send you home needs to be really worthwhile in helping them with their reading, with their spelling, and with their maths. They're the things that you can help them with at home that will make a real difference to how they progress this year. Now, again, we totally appreciate that you have really busy lives. Our children are really lucky. You know, your children get to do football, lots of them, and swimming and gymnastics. They have busy lives. And weekends are for your family too. Weekend is a time to recharge your batteries and spend time together as a family. So doing those things that we send home on the homework sticker is more than enough to help you to also fill your weekend. Sometimes we'll send home something extra if we know we've got something coming up that we would really appreciate you doing some perhaps pre-learning with your children over. But when that happens, we will let you know. Very occasionally we'll use Tapestry to send that home. I know Mrs. Selms was busy sorting out, rolling up all of the links so that they were in the right classes for Year 2. And on that note, just to reiterate with you, we don't generally look at Tapestry. We only log on to Tapestry if we want to send homework home. It's not used in the same way in Key Stage 1, as I'm sure you know from your experience in Year 1. It was used in Key Stage 1 only as an online learning platform when we needed lockdowns. Year R used Tapestry in a very different way. So we only log on to Tapestry if we want something home to you. So if you've got something you want us to be aware of, don't put it onto Tapestry because it's very unlikely that we will get to see it that way. So yeah, do enjoy your time at home with your children, and as I've said, maths, reading and spelling are the things that we would really love your help with. We are very lucky to already have a lovely bank of parent helpers that will come in and support across the year group. Important to note that if you are coming in as a helper, you may well be used in another class and not just in the class that your child or grandchild or niece or nephew is in. You may be working across the year group. If you'd like to come in and help, there is a process for that. You can go in the first instance and speak to the office. They will give you a form to complete where there will be a process to go through in order for us to make sure that in terms of safeguarding, we are ticking all of those boxes to make sure that every volunteer that we have in school has gone through the same induction process when they're going to be coming into contact with children. But we would love to have your help, especially with the maths passports. That is a really key thing. So if you would like to be involved with that, please speak to your class teacher and then they can organise that process for you. and you'll either have a chat with myself or with Mrs. McCarley before that begins, in order just to make sure that that induction into school has been done as safely as we can. But we really do value your input, really do value your support. So any time that you may have would be greatly appreciated. So here is the Zoom link for you. This should all, fingers crossed, work when you go to log in next week. Join us in that Zoom meeting, and please note that it will last for 30 minutes and come with any general questions that you might have, and we will endeavour to answer them for you. I hope this has been useful, and we will see you next week when you join the Zoom meeting.